Hi all, I have a very interesting game to show you today from a theoretical point of view, if nothing else. It's Vladimir Kramnik against Hikaru Nakamura, played in the London Chess Classic recently. Kramnik played d4, Nakamura played knight f6, and we saw actually the king's Indian defence emerge. Black played bishop g7 here, not the more popular d5. So Nakamura still sometimes plays the king's Indian defence. So white establishes a broad centre and we go into the main line. e5. Now here the most common move is for white to castle, but we see here the Petrosian system, this early d5 gaining space. It's got some bite to it. It's establishing white's space advantage. Slight downside, that c5 square. Black can often play like this. White can also consider pinning here. We see a5, in fact we get both, bishop g5. Black immediately unpins. Bishop goes to e3 here. In this position, actually, just before we look at that, bishop h4 is actually a lot more popular, it seems, than bishop e3. We're talking over 1100 games actually with bishop h4 and only 27 with bishop e3. So very interesting. Kramnik's got something up his sleeve here. Knight g4, and usually the bishop just drops back to c1. An example continuation is like this. He takes, and there's been a few games here with white having a small advantage. This g3 good maybe against f4 now. So yeah, there's a few games here with white having a small edge. The engine gives white with an edge here. But the bishop actually dropped back, curiously, to d2. Much more rarely seen. Only like 2 games, including this one, with bishop d2. So what is Kramnik's big idea? Let's see. f5 from Nakamura. h3. Knight f6. Now white takes on f5. If white takes with a piece here, then actually the move g4 is not so bad. White tries to establish control of that e4 square. This looks like something you don't want to do in the king's Indian defence, with white having nice control of e4, and it doesn't seem as though black's potential counterplay is that great here. So black takes with the pawn. It's the more natural thing to do in this position, it seems. Queen c1 now, so the point of bishop d2 is revealed. It looks a bit artificial though, the queen there. It's interrupting potential queenside castling. He's provoking Nakamura to play the move f4, funny enough. If king h7, and this is where I think preparation is interesting. I think white has g4 now. This is quite dangerous with g takes, controlling that diagonal, putting pressure on that diagonal. What does black actually do here in this situation if this had occurred? Say here, this doesn't look pleasant with knight g5 stuff. Bishop takes h6, he can't allow that. Knight takes here, knight g5 check. King g8. This position here is looking actually as though white has strong pressure. Knight ge4, with the idea of kicking back and then maybe rook g1 later. For example, well here we take the thing, say knight a6. f3, we've got good pressure, we can actually take on h6, actually forget about rook g1 to take on h6. So that would really kind of backfire. So this natural king h7, just want to demonstrate that. g4 seems actually really strong here. And on e4, knight d4, again, this is really strong pressure on h6 coming up. If knight takes here, trying to be tactical, this looks very good. Again, bishop takes h6. This battery has some sting to it, clearly. So Naka in this position played actually f4, shutting down the battery. So it seems as though that should be sorting out most of the issues. But now we have this biting move g3, which seems to be provoking the very aggressive e4. Now normally a move like e4 is actually opening up the king's Indian bishop as well. But here white hasn't committed to castling kingside and is attacking black's pawns. Let's see, e4, knight h4, and it looks now as though this is quite dangerous to play something like knight g6. It looks dangerous trying to exploit these weakened knight squares. What does Naka do here? If he plays f3, this is very difficult actually for black, this position. Maybe the bishop just drops back here. And this pawn is a potential target to bishop c2. This pawn's attacked. So say here, then there's all sorts of good moves. In fact, queen b1, this pawn's a bit loose. Say like this, bishop takes f3. It's difficult. These pawns may be a little bit overextended. So instead of f3, we have this shutting down move of the battery e3, which looks kind of good as well. Takes, f takes. So for the moment, the battery's been shut down. But the problem is this pawn going to be bad for the g file. What about this loose knight on h4? Can't that be exploited? Very tense looking position here. Okay, so white here plays knight g6, getting out of the way of things like that, attacking the rook. Now queen c2, preparing to castle queenside. Maybe if white can collect this g pawn, it's going to be a lot of pressure. Knight f d7. This might not have been technically the best move here. It's a tricky position already. In fact, earlier, instead of this rook f7, perhaps rook e8 was better. So say here, then knight a6. Say this, then actually maybe black's fine here with this kind of thing, tactical, blotting out the diagonal. So this tactical sort of stuff could actually be in black's favour. It could be very tricky here. If bishop f3, well, we just take on g6. So I think that might have been the way to play it. Rook e8 seems to offer a lot of interesting possibilities. But anyway, rook f7, queen c2. And we have knight f d7. Again, this might not be the most accurate, but it's a very unusual position. If knight a6 here introduces things like knight b4, castling, maybe black's got a reasonable position here with even knight b4, queen e8. The control of e4 seems okay. There seems to be a lot of pressure on white. Yeah, okay, it's an interesting position. The danger is, though, if this pawn is collected, it's going to be an attack against the black king coming up soon. So say like this. Here we can repulse this knight back. Maybe just take on g3, and white's starting to look forward to strong g file pressure. So that's the concept. It's a bit tricky to play this position. So knight f d7, white castles, knight e5. Now, what's the idea of Nakamura? He's hitting the knight. His knight's protected at the moment, but there's potentially bishop f5 as well. So white controls the f5 square here. He doesn't want to go after the pawn here, because then bishop f5 is a nuisance. So he controls, for the moment, f1. So he's leaving this pawn for a moment longer. He doesn't mind about g2 being a potentially dangerous forcing move, or the h3 pawn. So it's a very aggressive, the whole thing is very, very aggressive play from Vladimir. He's done this system, it's blocked in his d2 bishop for some time. His g6 knight, he's trying to make sure, safeguard that. There's some prospect, though, that also the black piece is not out of base here. If white can get that g pawn, he can get the g file. We have rook takes. This might, I don't know, it's a difficult position. What does black do? If bishop takes, knight takes, getting rid of one of black's best pieces. Say here, 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 here. This is a difficult position with queen g6. And white's got very good attacking prospects. Say here, knight e4. How is black actually defending this? Coming up with knight f6 next, or rook f7. Yeah, with these bits over here, the whole concept seems more justified. So, very difficult position here. So what does black do if he's not doing bishop takes h3? Well, he played rook takes. We have rook takes, and now bishop takes h3 here. Now white switches attention to this g file. So a very interesting game. You might think, well, g2 doesn't save anything, does it? Because of knight f4, the knight just springs back. And if queen protecting, then this is going to shift. Knight d1. It's going to shift after knight f2. So say this position. Well, it's going to get that g pawn, and when he gets the g pawn, nasty pin, and all sorts of ideas here, like knight e6. So yeah, black didn't bother with g2. He just played queen f6. Rook takes g3. So Vladimir's preparation seems to be going well here. He's got a strong attacking position actually. Knight takes g6, rook takes, queen f7, nasty pin, rook g3, gaining a tempo. Bishop f5, e4 liberates the bishop. Bishop g6 against bishop takes h6. But now, yeah, the problems are evident. Bishop g4 threatening bishop e6. Check, knight d1, bishop e5. Now here, white plays bishop h3, double attacking f1 and g6. Queen goes to f6. Rook g1. So white's still got formidable pressure here, and is threatening bishop f5. So this whole g-file concept seems to be working out very nicely. King h7. Now a slightly surprising looking move, but really strong. Bishop f5. White's trying to control that g6 square by force. Black hasn't got too many options here. He takes on f5, e takes, and now there's this rook g6 coming up. Knight d7, rook g6, queen f7. Check, taking a pawn with check, nice, check. And now this knight is coming very aggressive after knight f2. Nice attacking possibilities. Okay, b5, trying to get some counterplay against white's pawn structure. But knight g4 now, and there's very, very serious threats like knight h6 and rook g8 coming up. Black takes on c4 anyway. Here is a very strong position for white. White could actually start with check here and then take here, but he takes the pawn immediately, safeguarding d5 for a moment. You might think, well, isn't f5 on? That is taken, but something very nasty now occurs, and it's all pretty forcing actually. Can you guess what white plays to finish off the game brilliantly? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video here. So Kramnik's play. Rook g8 check. Yes, if king takes, then there's knight h6, winning the queen. So black has limited options. He plays king e7. Yeah, away from knight h6. If king f7, there's knight h6 as well. But now bishop g5 check. A very difficult position. Also the rook's hanging here. If black plays knight f6, then queen takes c7 is crushing. Say here, then rook g7. We're going to be winning that queen. So yeah, black has very limited options now. And in fact, here, white plays a move and black resigns. Guess which move? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, he doesn't play queen takes c7 because that I think would mess things up totally. Bishop takes g5. In fact, is check. No, he plays the check here. And yeah, what does black do now? Well, black resigned. If knight e5, white can take on f6 here. And if here, then there's knight h. I think there's just knight h6. That's when anything's winning there. If king d7. Then that's going to be crushing. Queen b5 check. Yeah, so this is pretty lethal. This queen e2 check. What does black actually do? He's pinned up. If king f7, yeah, again it's knight h6. It's actually checkmate here. Yeah, so queen e2 is pretty crushing. So a very interesting bit of preparation. And what interested me is actually the post-game comments. Vladimir indicates something about the king's Indian defence generally. That he doesn't kind of believe in it positionally. He believes in white's position having more space fundamentally, as though black's just relying on tactical ideas more than strategical. So from a positional perspective, I think Vladimir really likes it. I think he put off Garry Kasparov playing the king's Indian defence, beating Kasparov so many times more than anyone else in the king's Indian. But there was a glimpse of Kramnik's positional outlook on the whole opening, which really encouraged me. I really wanted to show this game in particular. And also I wanted to just philosophically mention, if you play a kind of risky opening, you're kind of making these double-edged positions. But I think often grandmasters like Nakamura or Morozevich, they're so well prepared that they're kind of deflecting, neutralising the double-edged nature of the controversial openings they play. But it so happened in this game that White had something very, very specific and technical planned against the King's Engine, because this is very unusual not to drop the bishop back to c1. In fact, I think Kramnik said it's a one-off usage, this particular system in this game. Yeah, I think Black did have some clear theoretical improvements. I don't think this is necessarily a King's Engine killer within the Petrosian system. I think the key improvement from an engine perspective, when we see this position here, I think even though White's got great prospects on that g-file and knight g6, there's resources for Black here. I mean, the engine recommendation, rook e8, is something worth investigating. Things are not so easy. It looks as though this could be kind of terminal stuff with that g-file, but I'm not sure things are that easy here. If Black's control of e4 is quite firm, apparently, Black might have some resources. And note this bishop's kind of shut down here, neutralised. So maybe Black's got resources. I don't think it's a King's Engine killer. But I was just interested in the kind of philosophy of the King's Engine expressed by Vladimir. That I think he sticks to more solid openings positional, because he knows that fundamentally, if they're positioning okay, even if he gets beaten, he said, that when he controls the tactics, he should be okay. He should have the advantage. So I guess in principle he doesn't really believe in the King's Engine. I thought it was a fascinating struggle, but he had a very, very prepared, specific technical line in this game. I don't know if we can use this as club players within the Petrosian system as a one-off surprise weapon. So this bishop retreat and then bishop d2. It seems a bit crude, this battery. And this provocation is very clever, though. If we look in retrospect, Black is actually weakening like g6 considerably. If we look at the path of this game, if we look at this position here, with Black being encouraged forward, Black's actually weakens quite a few light squares. But yeah, there seems to be resources for Black nevertheless. I don't think this is a theoretical bust. Especially for club players, we can still play the King's Engine. But it's an interesting opening. It's an interesting way of getting some imbalances in the position. But yeah, an interesting technical line has been expressed in this game, I think, within the Petrosian system. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.